Welcome to the Danny Clinkscale Reasonably Irreverent podcast. Insightful and witty commentary, probing interviews, and detours from the beaten path.
Welcome to another rollicking edition, we hope, of Thirsty Thursdays. Sense and nonsense, I don't think have failed yet. People miss it on Thursday. They forget that it's not Thursday that we're going to do it, and they say, oh, we're disappointed. It's Thursday. We're busy people. We can't do it every Thursday. I do 11,000 podcasts a week now, so I wrote a blog yesterday, so lots of things going on. Hey, those are some nice kicks, Mr. U. Are those new? I think those are new the last time I came here. Yeah. Anyway, we'll have the all-encompassing fact check. We're ready to talk some different things, as we always do. I've got a very sad but ridiculously dumb story from the world of sports, but not nearly as sad as some of the obviously far more sad and dumb things we have going on in our nation right now. But we'll probably just avoid those because that's tragic, and we are more trying to keep things on a lighter tone here. We're enjoying the fruits of the Free State Beverage Company today, as this will be a good test because we're sampling the Dunkel now, and we have a couple growlers here, which is always a wonderful way to purchase some beer. Very economical, too. Remember when I've gone in there before with my daughters when they were younger, they always were kind of aghast. You know, when you buy a growler, they're like, oh, Dad, you got issues, man. First of all, you're just not going to drink any more beer just because you have a growler. Secondly, there's quite a bit of beer in a growler, and it's a good price. So anyway, we'll be talking about that. Joe is armed with a 2-page fact check, and that's usually where we get rolling. It's big dance time. There's lots of things going on. We got crappy weather. Who could ask for anything more? Anyway, let's kick it off with Thirsty Thursday, Sense and Nonsense. Laker is over there riveted. Just riveted. I don't know if he's asleep, dead, or something in between. That's Joe's dog. A lovely, lovely dog. And if you follow Thirsty Thursdays, you know Laker. He's part of the picture here. You cleaned up the studio, buddy. It looks great. And Joe, of course, doesn't get to speak in the first portion of the show. But he'll speak next. He'll start things off right after this.
More of Danny's Reasonably Irreverent podcast after this.
The bitter cold snap in February was just another intense reminder of how important it is to have a quality heating and cooling company on your side. That's why you need to know about my friends at Dillon's Heating and Cooling. Jeff Dillon and his top-quality staff provide honest, affordable, and reliable service all year long. Their number one priority is taking care of the customer and focus on being genuine, always following through and standing behind what they say and do. If you need HVAC or AC repair, it's important you get help from a team of professionals. Dillon's Heating and Cooling's team can walk you through a range of products, the advantages of heating and cooling systems, and ultimately help you find the best HVAC system for you. They're always glad to answer your questions and set up an appointment for an installation consultation. Whether you are looking to upgrade to a newer model of your current system or need one installed in a new home, give my friends at Dillon's Heating and Cooling a call today at 913-214-0529. That's 913-214-0529, or visit dillonsheatingandcooling.com to answer all of your questions. Dillon's Heating and Cooling. Their slogan is their goal, always treating you like family.
Cinematic Visions has been an affordable solution for professional media production in Kansas City since 2003, offering award-winning video production and creation, as well as a wide array of digital and social media management services. From planning, scripting, filming, editing, and post-production, to delivering your product to a watching world, Cinematic Visions will provide professional and affordable services for you and your business with the necessary return on investment to make it all worthwhile. Cinematic Vision's goal is to unlock the power of storytelling through video and a strong online presence for your company. Beyond the numbers, they want to inspire and evoke your clients to feel and act. Let my friends at Cinematic Visions embed your brand where it belongs, in your customers' minds. You can find them online at cinematicvisions.com or with a quick phone call at 816-600-6300.
I'm here with David Schmidt from Private Capital. And David, tell us more about your outstanding firm.
Thanks, Danny. Here at Private Capital, we focus on return on asset. In today's world, it is survival of the fittest. We look at things from all angles and try to figure out what works best for you. The changes we will see this next year on assets will be monumental. The key to success is knowledge. Know where you want to go, and we'll be here along the way. To find out more, give us a call at 816-221-7775.
David Schmidt from Private Capital with the best service for you. It's time to visit once again with Dr. Brad Woodle of Advanced Sports and Family Chiropractic and Acupuncture. And Dr. Brad, your group has reached a significant milestone in receiving a prestigious award.
Danny, we've been honored for the 10th year in a row to receive the 5-Star Service Award from Integrity Doctors. And what this means is that all of our offices throughout Kansas City have made sure to give people excellent chiropractic and acupuncture care, be on time, and do a very complete and thorough job, and have great responses back from patients.
I know firsthand because I was just treated, for instance, today by you. You have a wide range of fantastic services.
Absolutely. Chiropractic, acupuncture, physiotherapies, rehab, anything that you need to keep you well in bones, muscles, joints, and nerves.
And I can't say how much it's benefited me in the time I've coming here, upwards of 2 years. My back has improved 100%. And you can have that same kind of treatment too. For more information and your chance for a healthier way of life, visit asfca.com/Danny today.
If you'd like to join these and other great sponsors and market your business to a growing and engaged audience, contact us at danny@dannyclinkscale.com. Look forward to hearing from you.
Welcome to another rollicking edition, we hope, of Thirsty Thursdays. Sense and nonsense, I don't think have failed yet. People miss it on Thursday. They forget that it's not Thursday that we're going to do it, and they say, oh, we're disappointed. It's Thursday. We're busy people. We can't do it every Thursday. I do 11,000 podcasts a week now, so I wrote a blog yesterday, so lots of things going on. Hey, those are some nice kicks, Mr. U. Are those new? I think those are new the last time I came here. Yeah. Anyway, we'll have the all-encompassing fact check. We're ready to talk some different things, as we always do. I've got a very sad but ridiculously dumb story from the world of sports, but not nearly as sad as some of the obviously far more sad and dumb things we have going on in our nation right now. But we'll probably just avoid those because that's tragic, and we are more trying to keep things on a lighter tone here. We're enjoying the fruits of the Free State Beverage Company today, as this will be a good test because we're sampling the Dunkel now, and we have a couple growlers here, which is always a wonderful way to purchase some beer. Very economical, too. Remember when I've gone in there before with my daughters when they were younger, they always were kind of aghast. You know, when you buy a growler, they're like, oh, Dad, you got issues, man. First of all, you're just not going to drink any more beer just because you have a growler. Secondly, there's quite a bit of beer in a growler, and it's a good price. So anyway, we'll be talking about that. Joe is armed with a 2-page fact check, and that's usually where we get rolling. It's big dance time. There's lots of things going on. We got crappy weather. Who could ask for anything more? Anyway, let's kick it off with Thirsty Thursdays, Sense and Nonsense. Laker is over there riveted. Just riveted. I don't know if he's asleep, dead, or something in between. That's Joe's dog. A lovely, lovely dog. And if you follow Thirsty Thursdays, you know Laker. He's part of the picture here. You cleaned up the studio, buddy. It looks great. And Joe, of course, doesn't get to speak in the first portion of the show. But he'll speak next. He'll start things off right after this.
I love how many times you talk to me in the first segment and I don't get to say anything. It's basically fucking torture. All right, Danny, we're back.
Hey, you get to speak now.
Welcome to the Clean Basement. Yeah, I was just telling you, it's torture. You sit here and you ask me questions and you talk to me.
Yep.
And I'm not supposed to talk.
No, you aren't.
Which is hard enough for me.
Right.
You know.
Look, Joe's sporting some tie-dye workout shorts today.
That's right,
You know,
buddy.
those look almost hand-painted. I'm serious. It looks like somebody, They're kind of Dolly-esque.
These are entirely too expensive to look like they're
Really?
homemade. So
Wow. Well, I'm sorry I offended you. No, that homemade doesn't necessarily mean that they would be bad.
we did some tie-dye, pandemic tie-dyeing in this household.
Really?
Needed an activity, so we did some tie-dyeing. It was a
Wow.
good time. So I got it.
So did the kids kind of get into the idea of the tie-dye?
Oh, they loved it. It's very fashionable right now.
Oh, is it?
Oh, yeah.
It really is kind of a bad fashion, to be honest.
Well,
it's fun in it's fun in a colorful sort of, hey, we're here to party way,
Yeah.
but it's not really. It never really is sharp.
Well, I'm not wearing it to a wedding.
No, I know that.
We're drinking beer in my basement.
No, I'm not. I'm just talking about the tie dye in general. It's just more of a tie dye T-shirt is just more of a statement than a fashion statement.
Well, speaking of fashion statements, we're starting with the Nehru jacket.
Oh yeah,
You talked
which
about.
I avoided.
Listen, they were marketed in the West starting in the mid-1960s. So this tracks with what you were saying. And they were, quote, briefly popular.
Yes, very briefly popular.
So it says its popularity was spurred by three things. Growing awareness of foreign cultures, the minimalism of the modern lifestyle, and the Beatles and the Monkees.
Yes.
So I had said, is it a Beatles thing? Da-da-da-da.
But the Beatles never really sort of wore they wore some kind of, as you would expect, really kind of extra fashionable Nehrus. And the ones that sort of were famous, were fashionable for about 6 months, were sort of a standard issue, Nehru jacket, little turtleneck underneath it.
Well,
medallion out front.
Well, what the Nehru jacket is, it's a variation of I'm going to murder this word, a jodhpuri, which is an Indian
Right.
coat, which we were right about that as well, by the way. But here's the thing that was the most astounding. I Googled this. These things are for sale all over the place, like high fashion Nehru jackets. I guess they're really popular in the Middle East and in like high fashion European. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think they've ever completely gone away in other cultures, but in America, it was only that short span. I still remember, like, the Red Sox player Ken Harrelson, who was kind of supposed to be he was actually American League player. He became the White Sox announcer. That's what he was most famous for.
Okay.
Hawk Harrelson. And you can kiss that one goodbye. You know, that guy. He got so disgruntled. Actually, he was the American League Player of the Year, not the MVP, but like the Sporting News Player of the Year for the Red Sox in 1968. Loved playing for the Red Sox. Loved the, he didn't play on the 67 title team, and he was kind of a, swinger. The Hawk was kind of a swinger.
He's a heartthrob.
Guy. So he embraced the Nehru, and then he got traded to the Indians, and that was like getting sent to hell at the time. And the guy was like in his late 20s.
The river's on
he went
fire.
there, and he had a rough time. And he quit. He tried to become a professional golfer.
Oh my gosh!
And then he got into announcing, and that was very successful. Became iconic announcer for the White Sox for years and years.
Well, it makes sense that
he just died last year, I believe.
It makes sense that you call Cleveland like going to hell, because didn't their river light on fire?
River
at
caught
one point?
on fire. Yes. The Cuyahoga, I think it did. It was red and it caught on fire.
Oh my gosh!
It was for people who now might think, well, we were going so far to this way on the environmentalists. We did some unbelievably good work in the 50s, 60s area, because you can look at pictures from the 1930s and 40s in Pittsburgh. You can't even see it.
Yes.
And it's kind of what you see in China now.
Well, yeah, and it was easier then to get people on board because it was right there in front of you. The river's on fire. You can't breathe the air,
Exactly.
All the birds are dying. That was really in the 60s what did it. Is
right.
that book where A Silent Spring, I think is the name of the book, right?
And that was the first Earth Day. I remember when I was young. That was a cool thing, having Earth Day.
And you know what is interesting? My mother-in-law sent me a picture from... It was maybe the 60s of her and my father-in-law. And they're at a rodeo, standing out front. They're getting their picture taken because they're in these silly hats and things.
Right.
And the thing that stuck out the most to me is you look in the background and there's just trash everywhere, And I remember as a kid, even in the 80s, it was you just threw stuff out the window. Like people just, there was trash everywhere. That was like before the litter bug thing, right?
Right.
So I mean, we're coming a long way.
No, we did come a long way, and but then, we probably got a little lax, but I think you really just see what America was like without any kind of regulation of that type when you look at China. I mean, they just did this industrial explosion and just said, go ahead, do whatever you want, and they've got all kinds of. Their air is awful.
Oh, yeah. A friend of mine was over in, it wasn't China, it was India. He goes there for work, and he sent a picture out of his hotel room, and it was just, you couldn't see a thing in the broad daylight. And he said that the news had said that being outside for 10 minutes was the equivalent of smoking 100 packs of cigarettes.
Sounds a little high.
That's how nasty it was out there.
Yeah, that's not good. Well, you have to breathe it all the time if you're outside.
This friend of mine smokes about 100 packs of cigarettes a week anyway, so he didn't mind.
It's a push.
So we went over Enter the Dragon again about Bruce Lee, and Enter the Dragon is actually a Bruce Lee movie. Came out in 1973, and it was his final film that had his direct involvement. I thought this was the most interesting thing and why it made the fact check. They made a bunch of movies after this, and they just used archival footage and pieced it together.
Wow.
I mean, yeah, right? Like,
I actually couldn't, as I'm sitting here, I can't remember the circumstances of Bruce Lee's death.
Didn't he die from a stunt bullet that wasn't really a stunt bullet?
I don't think so. I think that sounds, well, since I can't remember, I guess I can't sit here as some kind of, I thought maybe it was just sort of a natural causes type of thing. But maybe I'm wrong, though.
I'm pretty sure, and we'll fact check it.
There you go.
That there was a shooting scene or something where a guy pulled the trigger, shot a gun, and it was a live round instead of an unloaded round.
The only reason I'm thinking that that's not the case is because that seems like I would remember that story, but I wouldn't remember if he died of an aneurysm or something.
It pops out of my head.
Okay.
Our word of the podcast is lambasted, as you would say it.
That's not such a fancy word.
Well, it's the fanciest word we used last time.
When I texted you, you discussed this. People have often commented on my vocabulary.
Uh-huh.
I mentioned the fact that I got a gift from the president of WHB once that was called the Snobby Person's Guide to Words or something. I forget exactly what it is. I still have it. I just use big words organically.
I know.
Words that I know. I don't just try to drop a word on somebody.
Well, I drug you down last time, I
guess. I guess all I did was get lambasted.
Yes, so
let's give that a try.
To be lambasted is to criticize someone or something harshly. So in case you didn't know.
Well, do you remember I think when it was maybe during the Tyreek Hill situation, Andy Reid said you're lambasting me with all these questions.
Oh, no. He said you're pummeling me.
Was it pummeling? Okay.
Yeah, you're pummeling me.
He could have said lambasting.
Well, you lambasted me over my math on Lakers mix last time.
Right.
And I went back and listened, and I got the math right. So I just wanted to go over that really quick. We also couldn't remember the dating app, the swipe left, swipe right dating app, because we're both too old to have ever used it.
No, I certainly don't know.
It's called Tinder, is what it's called. So I thought that was interesting. We've got two big sections here. The next section is going to be about...
I just want to quickly divert.
Uh-huh.
Have you ever used any kind of dating service?
No.
Me neither.
No. I got married in 2000
Well, no, I can't say that. After I got divorced, I cannot say that I didn't, put my name in, but I never went on a date from one of those
Well,
things.
I was hoping to ask you later about some dating app stories, because I thought maybe...
No.
You did a little Match.com or...
I've had blind dates that were quite interesting.
I'm making a note about that.
I don't think I really can talk about the really best story. That may be beyond the pale of even a podcast.
So we're having some nice beer here from Free State, and it is not skunky. This is their Alley-Oop Dunkel.
It's good.
It's fair.
It's sort of a it's a little bit lighter a Dunkel, I would say.
Yeah, I had to be in Lawrence today for work, and I said, you know what? Grabbing a couple growlers. It's not skunky, for sure.
No, I don't think I've ever. I don't think any brown beer I've ever thought was skunky.
Well, we talked about green bottles and skunky beer last time.
Yes.
So
Heineken, I think Heineken was the jumping off point.
That's right, and I looked up if that's a real thing, and it is. So here's the deal. Skunky beer. So this is from chowhound.com, and they quote a bunch of USC scientists in it that specialize in brewing. Now, I needed to bring that up because there's a lot of contradictory information on the internet, okay? And so I believe this to be fact. So what happens is sunlight hits the beer, and that activates alpha acids, and that's the bitter compound in the hops used in beer. And it's super sensitive to natural light, okay? So if light reaches it, it causes it to break down and makes sulfur, all right? And that's the skunky smell, right? So this process creates this MBT, and it's the same compound that's in a skunk's spray.
Wow.
How about that?
That's pretty impressive. That's pretty impressive research right there. The only thing I'll say, though, is like it only seems like a higher quality beer gets skunky.
Oh, I got answers for that.
All right. Like Miller's comes in clear bottles.
I know. So here's the deal. Okay, so canned beer is the only way to fully protect against the sunlight, obviously, right? But brown bottles are a close second, okay?
Right.
Clear and green glass bottles, it can happen very quickly. Excuse me. So some beer doesn't get skunky. And you know why?
Because it doesn't have any flavor to begin with?
Close. They're not using real hops. They're using a chemical substitute called Tetra hop. And so then it doesn't get skunky. And so if you've got a green bottle beer that doesn't get skunky or a clear bottle beer that doesn't get skunky and it's out in the sun for a while,
it's probably not real hops.
it's fake. And I used to think that if a beer got hot, that would make it skunky.
No.
Like if it gets hot and then cold and then hot and then cold.
Right.
Not true, it's sunlight. So I thought that was cool.
Well, maybe that's why. Maybe that's my answer to. I think one of my least favorite famous beers is Newcastle Brown Ale.
Really?
I don't like Newcastle Brown Ale at all.
Well, you don't like malty beer.
I like a good version of just about everything except we're going to test. Because I'm not the biggest fan of stout. And we're going to try a stout.
And it's my favorite stout in the whole wide world. And I love stouts.
So I'm generally not a stout. Does Guinness even really qualify as a stout?
Not in my world.
Well, I mean, but Guinness is not stout at all. I mean, it's really kind of...
It's just bitter for the sake of being bitter.
But usually when I have a stout, I'm like, I appreciate the full-bodied... there's a lot going on there.
Yeah.
But
I'm going to do the pretentious thing and talk about the flavor of a Free State oatmeal stout.
Okay.
It has the nutty finish.
Well, we should wait till we drink it.
Oh, okay.
Let's go on with the fact check.
Okay.
Because we're going to drink it here after the break.
That's right. So we're on to our last fact check. And I got to tell you, Danny, this could be the rightest you've ever been about anything on this podcast. In the illustrious...
That's a long list right
there. The illustrious history, which, by the way, this is our 1-year anniversary, too.
Wow.
How about that?
Well, I'll know that when I go to post the thing, because I post by date, and it'll say, whatever this date is, and I'll go, oh, I did a podcast on exactly this date, because I actually have to be extra careful.
Well, it's not going to be the exact date because we do them on Wednesdays, but I'm fairly certain this is the 1-year anniversary of the time that we sat down here and just decided that our conversation was interesting
too
enough.
Fascinating to just keep to ourselves.
So if you think this podcast is some sort of manufactured thing, this is literally just what we were doing anyway.
No, we would get together for from the very first time we met. Yeah. It was like this. We met for, what was that place we met for coffee? Very first meeting we had.
Oh.
down
Blip.
in the West.
Blip in West Bottoms.
Yeah.
Yeah, people don't believe me. And but
you used to email me occasionally when I was on 810.
Absolutely.
And then you did after the demise. I still have a relationship with 810, so it's not.
Yeah, it's fine.
It's fine. But and then it went from there. But
hey, and
then
listen,
we get together let's get together and have some beers.
That's right.
And
Beer
it was
Co.
basically a version of Thirsty Thursdays every time.
Except I didn't get to fact check your ass.
That's true.
And so that's what I enjoy so much about the fact check. And it's gotten so popular. I'm so happy that I told the bartender about it at Free State, and I got a deal on this beer because I was talking about how we were going to be drinking it on the podcast tonight. So,
well, there you go, and he will, and the social media going out to my 17,000 followers.
There you go.
Humble brag. We'll have a Free State image on it. No
I
question
told him
about
it would.
that.
So back to the thing that you're right about.
Yeah, let's get back to that.
Okay, so thought I was a big Steve Miller fan.
Right.
Okay, thought I knew kind of what he was and who he was. I started researching who Steve Miller is, and I'm like, you've got to be friggin' kidding me. I mean, you couldn't have been any more right about a real blues man. I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy. First of all, the lyric that we couldn't think of is Billy Mack is a detective down in Texas.
Oh, jeez.
He knows just exactly what the facts is.
And if that was the only one, that'd be fun. But that might be the prize winner. That might ring the bell.
His dad was a sound tech and a musician, and he grew up around a lot of famous people, including Les Paul. And if you're not a guitar person, you don't know who Les Paul is. There's one hanging in my guitar room back here.
Well, there's like three. What are there? Three maybe Gibson Stratocaster is a Gibson, right?
Yeah. Well,
And so
no,
Les Paul-
that's a Fender. So you got the
Okay.
there's of the Mount Rushmore of guitars.
Yes, Les Paul's on it.
Les Paul's on it, right? Okay, of not only guitars but guitarists.
Right.
Okay, and I mean it's what Led Zeppelin. The list of the top 100 best guitarists in the history of rock and roll that played Les Paul guitars is innumerable. I mean, it's
Right.
half the list. Okay,
Right.
well, Les Paul used to just kick it at the house with his dad. Okay, he
Nice.
used to show
Steve Miller's dad.
Yes, and just show Steve some guitar licks and stuff,
Right.
along with a ton of other musicians that I couldn't even write down on the list. So then he goes to high school, and he teaches his brother to play the bass because he wanted to have a band. This is Steve Miller I'm talking
Right.
about. And then he teaches this kid that he goes to school with, goes by the name of Boz Skaggs.
Nice.
Teaches him to play chords on a guitar so that he can be his rhythm guitarist for his high school band. I mean, doesn't stop.
Is he from Texas?
Well, he bounced around a lot,
Oh,
but
okay.
this was in Texas that happened.
Right.
So then he goes to college in Wisconsin. Then he goes to college in Denmark, like in Copenhagen. Comes back to Texas. He's 6 credit hours away from a literary degree and decides he's bored with college.
Doesn't sound like he was a poor child.
It doesn't, no. Which most bluesmen, I would think, did probably come from more humble
Right,
beginnings than
yes.
this. So he jumps in his VW bus that his dad had bought him, and he drives to San Francisco. And this is, the early, mid-'60s, it's San Francisco. He gets immersed in that musical culture out there. And so anyway, then in 1966, he forms a band called the Steve Miller Band. It was actually called the Steve Miller Blues Band then. And they backed up Chuck Berry on his Live at Fillmore Auditorium album. Like, he was Chuck Berry's band.
Wow.
Chuck friggin' Berry in 66.
Nice.
I mean, that's towards the end for Chuck, but still.
Oh, Chuck lasted a long time, man.
I know towards the end of his influences,
Right.
Chuck friggin' Berry, right? Okay. And then they put out a bunch of records as a Steve Miller Band. And some of those records, he had Paul McCartney guest play on them, and Paul McCartney would come in and play under his pseudonym, Paul Ramon. So I didn't know that's what he
Nice.
used. So anyway, now we get to the fact check. In 1973, The Joker was a #1 hit, and that album was a change from its previous ones. So they became less hard rock and more simple and poppy. So The Joker was, in fact, his first popular, poppy hit. And So not only were you right about that, you were right about Steve Miller in general, to the extent that I thought, no way. I'm like, well, maybe he made a blues album once and Danny heard it.
I
you
knew.
know, or
That's why I always
Paul
had...
Knopfler talked about him in an interview
Mark
one
Knopfler.
time. Sorry, Mark Knopfler talked about him in an interview one time or something. But no, you were so right on, to the point that, like, I'm gonna go back and listen to these albums I didn't even know existed, and I'm very excited about it. I'm like, man, I wonder what...
You know, that's the great thing about the world we live in now. You can go do this. And while we're talking about that, there's a really fascinating, easy 14-minute video that's called Mark Knopfler on Guitars. And he just switches to different kinds of guitars and explains what different kind of sounds he gets out of these different guitars. And it'll be a Les Paul, or it'll be a Fender Stratocaster,
or an SG, or whatever. Yeah.
Whatever. It's real. It's a real easy, fun listen, and you'll just really just Mark Knopfler on Guitars. You Google it on YouTube, or you go to YouTube, and it's only 14 minutes long. It's really fun because you're like, oh, because when he's one of the, when you get to be the type of person Mark Knopfler is, or any of these great guitarists now, I mean, they have their own guitar tech there, and I when I go see Mark Knopfler now, he changes guitars every song, basically.
Yeah.
And sometimes within songs, like when he plays Romeo and Juliet, they do a little bridge, and he goes off the stage and gets a different guitar and comes back, and they have about a minute where the other guys are playing, so he can switch guitars, and it's just. But it's something you can only do
once you
get
made
to a
it.
certain level, and you got a guy tuning them all the time and everything else. So, but anyway, I can highly recommend that little 14, because it's easy to listen to, and it's fascinating for a non-musician like myself, and I think even person who's I think you've seen it. So
and I'll tell you the coolest job that in the world that I wanted. I mean, other than being a rock star in the music business, my uncle used to do professional sound, like we would do sound for bands, right? So I've done sound for some pretty famous people. And the guys that have made it, they have a guitar tech that travels with them.
Right.
And they come out on stage before anybody's in-house, and they play every guitar, make sure it sounds exactly right.
Right.
And they can play.
Right.
I mean, they
have
can
to
play. And you never see a guitar tech that's out there like strumming through Free Fallin' or something, like they're playing Thunderstruck or something when they, anyway, point is that guy's got an awesome job, because that's his job, is to take care of that suitcase full of guitars, a giant suitcase, giant cabinet of guitars,
right,
and tune them perfectly and play them every night to a 30,000 seat stadium. It's just the coolest job ever, man.
Well, that sounds like a good place to break right here, and I will start the second part with a little fact check of mine, just a fun little thing that it's not even a fact check from broadcast, it's just a dumb story that I found, and then and it's a dumb sad story too. But anyway, we'll start off with that, and you will get the big reveal of what I think of the Free State Oatmeal Stout, because they've got a little battle on their hands. But the oatmeal part intrigues me, and I have some faith in Free State. It's a good company, so we'll see. We will see coming up next.
More of Danny's Reasonably Irreverent podcast after this.
Most of us have experienced auto accidents, and it's no fun. And even less fun is trying to work on the insurance aspects afterwards and getting full value after an auto accident. I'm here with David Cowan from RecExpert.com. And David, you have an unusual and important niche for people after an auto accident.
We have a passion to teach car wreck clients what they deserve. Getting your car repaired only fixes the damage and the paint. Getting paid for your car's loss in value is called diminished value. Chances are you've never heard of this before because most people aren't looking out for you. We help people collect thousands to tens of thousands of dollars for their car's loss in value after the wreck.
And if somebody wants to come to you for that, what's the original assessment cost them?
We offer a free review of any insurance claim to see how we can help.
You can't beat that. Great expertise and assistance in getting full value after an auto accident from David Cowan. Visit RecExpert.com and learn more. Firsthand, I have enjoyed the benefits of the CBD products from Canaway. My back feels better and better these days, as a major part of my routine are the pain-relieving salve and the Pure Gold oil.
And recently, I had the pleasure of a treatment session using the Canaway CBD in conjunction with the Microlight 830 cold laser. The non-invasive treatment session worked wonders, and I could barely tell I was even being touched. TML 830 is the first 3B cold laser to get FDA approval, and in addition, the combination treatment with CBD is patent pending. The new smart laser is the only hands-free cold laser in the world and is used by athletic trainers, chiropractors, MDs, physical therapists, and veterinarians everywhere. You can learn more about all the great benefits from the complete line of Canaway CBD products by contacting my friend Sherry McCants at 515-208-6312. That's 515-208-6312 to get outstanding information about Canaway. I'm here with Tim Emerson, the owner of Emerson & Company. And Tim, give us an idea of the range of services that you provide from Emerson & Company.
At Emerson & Company, we do credit card processing, payroll services. We do bookkeeping, merchant accounts like point-of-sale systems.
What would you say differentiates you from other companies in the field, and what makes you special?
I think what makes us unique is that we're a small local business making regional decisions on companies. We create a profile for the business and then put it out to our different vendors in a very competitive environment and tailor those needs to the specific business, which usually ends up in a great fit or great result for the company.
And, of course, the idea is to save money, right?
Save money, and actually sometimes I'm surprised where actually a solution that may cost a little bit more ultimately does save money, but we're not conditioned to think like that sometimes.
Emerson & Company. Check them out at emerson-co.com or call them at 816-360-9092.
Right now, it's more important than ever to support local businesses. And 23rd Street Brewery in Lawrence is open and ready to take care of you. Make 23rd Street Brewery part of your KU game day experience, whether you watch the game there or grab curbside pickup for your tailgates or watch parties.
But not just game days. 23rd Street Brewery is great any day of the week, and when the weather's nice, you can take advantage of their heaters on the patio. 23rd Street Brewery is open daily from 11:30 to 9 for dine-in, carry-out, curbside pickup, and can even help with your catering needs.
So support local and visit a Lawrence favorite, 23rd Street Brewery.
If you'd like to join these and other great sponsors and market your business to a growing and engaged audience, contact us at Danny@DannyKlinkscale.com. Look forward to hearing from you. Ah, yes, we are toasting to the oatmeal stout from Free State, and I'm about to take my first sip. As we established in the first segment, I am not the biggest fan of the stout. I've cleansed my palate, and here we go. That is very good.
Yeah?
It's still a stout. It's still not going to be my favorite, but as stouts go, I very much like it. Smooth. As I said before, a stout has a lot of flavor.
It's so good.
But it just is edging towards the chocolate, the coffee area.
Which is exactly why I love it so much.
Right, and I don't drink coffee, and I don't
that's
like coffee.
Right. I forgot about
that. That kind of hurts, but that's a very good stout, and I am in no way, shape, or form disappointed in having a large glass of it. Let's start off with this dumb thing. I almost felt like dumping it, but just when I read it, it was so stupid and sad at the same time. All right. As many people may not be surprised that I subscribe to the Boston Globe online.
Oh, okay.
And it's not. I don't follow. I'm not a supporter of any of the sports teams in Boston. I was
Just
never.
remind you
I was
of
never a
home,
Celtics fan. Never a Red Sox fan. I still am a Bruins fan of sorts, but it's just hard to be a hockey fan here. Period.
Yeah.
So the Bruins are the team that if I was going to say I'm still a fan of, and I kind of I follow the teams because my family does. So and they're all fans.
Okay.
And then it kind of is a connection to home, and also the Boston Globe is fine.
Yeah, it's great paper.
It's a fine publication. So anyway, today I get this, and I get into my email inbox, I get these stories.
Okay.
Duxbury, Massachusetts football game versus Hingham canceled after use of anti-Semitic terms by Duxbury players. All right, they're because they didn't have fall football, they're playing in the spring.
Oh, okay, yeah, like D2 or whatever.
Right, yeah. So anyway, Duxbury's opening game was against Plymouth.
I don't really, it isn't connecting in the fact that Plymouth is a place where I would think that there's a particularly large Jewish community.
Okay.
But maybe, I haven't lived there in a long time. So
Okay.
it doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter anyway. But how about this for stupidity? The use of the anti-Semitic terms came when they were calling out audibles.
Oh, you're kidding me.
They're calling out Auschwitz.
Oh, my God.
Dreidel?
Really?
Yes. Yes.
No.
Yes, the coach got fired today. I don't know who came up
What
with it.
in the hell's the coach thinking?
Well, I don't know if the coach was behind it or if he just had to eat the bullet.
He'd have to be, right?
So anyway, yes, they were calling out audibles using now. Okay, some people would say, "Well, the cancel culture, Dreidel, why isn't that?" Or rabbi, but Auschwitz, sorry.
Listen, Auschwitz you can't do.
You can't, no. And Dreidel's a toy, whatever. Maybe if you just stuck to that. But still, in the context of all of that, ridiculous. But just so dumb.
You know what's so hilariously random about you doing this? I brought my favorite beer glass down here.
And it's got the Star of David all over it.
It's got the Star of David on it. It says Mazel Tov, bitches.
That's pretty funny.
That is unbelievable.
Yeah, and I think we've talked about this on the last podcast.
Yeah, I don't care
You're
for
not
the cancel
a
culture.
fan of cancel culture, but I think that has the pendulum swung a little far? Yes, but it's because of things like this that need to be canceled.
I know, but see, that again, not to be redundant, but it's stuff like this is why I think that it's a good idea to, edit the way that we talk to each other and the things we do in this country. But then when it goes too far, it's annoying to defend. You know what I mean?
True.
For me. And that's just, and you're stuck defending it. You're stuck defending
Right, it's
the
like,
culture war.
well, it's just the black and white and not gray that we have fallen into in this country that, you're a cancel culture person because you...
Well, we all know you are, Danny.
Yeah. But it's like, you know who is the biggest offender and needs political correctness in their life is the person who is always railing against political correctness.
100%.
So
it's just like, it's just like anything,
Well,
right? He doth protest too much,
Yes,
right?
see the grays in the world. And I think that, some people think I am so far from a black and white person.
Uh-huh.
And we need way more of that. But anyway, let's go to something that will lead down a...
Well, there's no gray in winning and losing, right?
Right.
Well, we got the basketball tournament going on here. You and I got together, watched.
Yes, we did.
Watched a little hoops, had a couple keg beers. I got you to drink some Miller Lite.
But I actually had a good beer first.
Yeah. Loosened up the chamber a
I
little
should have
bit.
done it the other way around. That's the way... No, that is the
No,
right
you did
way.
it the right
That is
way.
the right way.
You did it the right way.
All right, so this particular thing, it's not really a fact check because we didn't do it on the broadcast, but when we were texting back and forth yesterday about whether we were both available to do said podcast, you responded with a text that said 10-4.
Which I use all the time.
And so I just texted back Joe Friday, research it. And then I texted back Broderick Crawford.
Yeah, and I crapped it away and didn't do it.
Didn't do it, but that's all right. Well, Joe Friday, of course, is probably people know it more because there's been a couple remakes, but he is Dragnet.
Yeah, Dragnet.
Right. So, and they use 10-4 on that, a considerable amount. Now, Broderick Crawford may be a little more of a stretch for people. Now, I will say this.
Is this a radio guy?
No, this was a television show.
The Broderick Crawford?
Well, he was a very famous actor in movies.
Oh, I don't have
And
any idea.
had some really fine roles, including playing gangster in a movie with Billie Holiday. I'm not Billie Holiday, Judy Holiday. That was very famous comic actress. Anyway, look him up. That's a good fact check. But anyway, later in his career, he did a TV show which I only saw in reruns. So don't say that I'm 100,000 years old. That was called Highway Patrol, I believe.
I remember this from pop culture. I remember there was a show called Highway Patrol.
And so he was a gruff sounding person, and he constantly said 10-4, 10-4, 10-4, 10-4. And that was a time when really movie stars, as it were, which he was, we're not supposed to be slumming in television.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
It was a
That
step.
wasn't
It was
until
a step
recently,
down and whatever. So anyway, so when I saw that, I was like, I thought of Jack Webb. But the reason this is funny and maybe more coherent and current and fun to people is that Jack Webb was a wildly conservative man, and Dragnet was about the L.A. Police Department, and it was a radio show first.
Okay.
Dragnet was a radio show first, a very popular radio show, and it's quite a good radio show. I listen to a lot of the radio shows, as you know, and laugh at. In fact, I just got in the last couple of weeks 2 box sets of 2 of my favorite radio detective series, so I can listen to them when I want.
On 8-track or
No, there was CDs, which is about the equivalent of 8-track now.
That's right.
Right. One's yours truly, Johnny Dollar, and then there's another one called Richard Diamond, Private Eye, and they're
It sounds like a porno
they're
film.
quite good. And anyway, so Jack Webb did this long-running radio show, and then he moved it over to television. And part of the reason that it was supported was because the L.A. Police Department had a horrendous reputation for racism, everything else, and which lasts to this day. I mean, really.
Yeah.
But they painted the L.A. Police Department in a good light, and this will make a lot of people laugh at the absurdity of it. They did an episode of the television version of Dragnet once, where a bunch of potheads got together and were smoking weed, and the 2 of them were a husband and wife, and they let their baby drown in the tub while they were high. Now, this was supposed to be
Makes sense. You got to stay away from those marijuana cigarettes, Danny.
It was supposed to be based on true cases. This really sounds completely absurd to the Reefer Madness level.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Where a guy in Reefer Madness, the most seminal early thing, the guy goes crazy, pounds on the piano, and jumps out the window. That's what happens in Reefer Madness. Now, that was from the 1930s.
Danny, I've seen that happen dozens of times.
But they just forgot. They forgot the baby was in the tub, said baby drowns because they were smoking pot.
Yeah, because no parent that's ever had 3 cocktails has ever forgot their kid was crying upstairs. It's so ridiculous.
Anyway, so I thought that little fact check might lead us down that particular road.
Well, yeah, I say 10-4 all the time. I think I say it so much my phone suggests it to me all the time when it doesn't make sense. You know, when I would not want to respond to this 10-4. You know,
well, phones can be problematic in that regard because I always use a smiley emoji. You were talking about not saying racial slurs or whatever. Emoji with sunglasses on.
Yes, absolutely.
Because my thumbs up, I have an Android phone.
Okay.
And I would say, for a while, I was sending thumbs up to people, and it was coming across as something completely different. I don't even know what it was.
Oh, really?
And so people would text me back and like, what? Huh? Because they had
Okay, this is a mystery revealed for me because I've always wondered why.
I didn't do a thumbs up.
I get the 17 sunglass guys.
Right. Well, that's why I did it. I used to do the thumbs up, and for whatever reason, people who didn't have an Android phone would get, I don't even know what they got, but it wasn't a thumbs up.
Well, I was taking us to basketball because, dang it, every now and then we should talk about some sports.
Sure.
You're a KU alum. I was in Lawrence today. We're drinking some Lawrence beer. I've heard a lot of pissing and moaning about KU this year.
Right.
And I was not as engaged as I normally am. I'll admit that. Because it was a weird year. But I had a lot of fun at the end of the year and in the tournament watching this team. And I'm going to sound like a crazy person, but it was fun to me to watch a team that was
good on the try-hard chart?
Yes. That was good. Not only was good on the try-hard chart, needed to be good on the try-hard chart to win or to compete, and was maybe a little undersized, was definitely undersized and under-talented for a KU squad and all that. For me, It was a nice little change. Now, do I want to watch another decade of this? Probably not, right? But it was the fact that they got second in the Big 12 with this squad. The job that Bill Self did.
Right, and people don't want to hear that.
No, this is
is
one of his best damn coaching jobs in the history of his time here.
The only thing that I understand a little bit is that KU's gotten smoked out of the tournament 4 times in a row now.
Yeah,
the last 4 times they've lost in the tournament.
They never lost a game of more than 16.
But they were all, those games were blowouts that became 16.
Yeah,
talking about the Auburn game, the Oregon game, the Villanova game.
Hey, I don't like it either. There's been 8 Elite Eights? Right? 3 Final Fours and a championship. Look, I'm not one of those KU fans that's going to sit here and bitch about that. That's fantastic. Okay?
No, and
Carolina,
it was anybody who sat there and said, "No, you're not supposed to lose by 34, no matter what."
It was embarrassing.
No matter what. But you could see who had the better players.
Yeah,
the better squad was out there, and it wasn't wearing. It didn't say Kansas across the front.
But to address the losing by 34, they missed 11 of their first 12 shots, and they weren't even close. They weren't even coming near. And it's not like they were halfway down, right? I watched the first 7 minutes or whatever, and I thought to myself, well, hell, they can't shoot this bad the rest of the game.
Well,
they got a chance. And
I thought, to reference what you were talking about, the team, when it's 7-8 minutes in, as you said, and Kansas has scored 10 maybe at that point, it's only 15-10, and USC isn't killing them. And I'm thinking, you know what? I think KU might win this game.
I did too,
because they're making this game ugly. They've won these ugly games late. USC's going to get a little frustrated, but then of course USC went bananas. Right.
I still remember it was 18-10, and I think it was 11 minutes left in the first half or whatever, and we couldn't throw it in the ocean, and I'm like, they can't shoot this bad the rest of the game, and they didn't shoot that bad the rest of the game. They weren't like airballing balls and hitting the back of the rim, but they were still missing shots, And
inside, they just could not deal with the size.
Yes, and you could say it was the
US.
length that made them not be able to shoot worth a crap. But it was just unfortunate shooting. That's not why they lost the game, but that's why they lost the game by 34. Because by the time they threw anything in the ocean, it was too late, and their confidence was gone. And so... Yes. Okay. So let's address what you were talking about. 4 straight times out of the tournament, right? In embarrassing fashion, if you want to put it that way, right? Yeah, I don't like that either, but there's this cloud over the athletic department.
Yeah, they've really got to get past the investigation, and it was their decision
to drag it out.
To drag it out and go down this road and take it to the other people are, they don't, it's not in the hands of the NCAA anymore. It's in the hands of this independent thing, and that's where Kansas wanted to go. And I don't think it's going to go any better there, and it's just going to take longer. And
well, I think I agree with people I've heard in their opinion that they're trying to drag it out because they think the NCAA is not going to, it's going to go away to some extent, or there's going to be more revelations about other schools, and it's like, what are you going to punish us all? I think that's what they're thinking. But dragging it out has this cloud of the program,
right? And
it's not going to get any flipping easier for the next couple of years. So you know what? If you're a KU fan, get used to this. If you don't like watching this, I am okay. So one of my guys at work, big NBA fan. We talk about the Lakers all the time. He's like, man, you excited about the tournament? And I'm like, yeah, I did a Calcutta auction with some friends. It's gonna be a good time. We're gonna watch some basketball. He's like, yeah, too bad KU sucks this year. And I looked at him and I go, they got second in the Big 12.
Right,
what are you talking about?
They're a 3 seed.
They're a flipping 3 seed. They suck.
They've been a 4 seed before when they, when they were still in these, salad days, as it were. So
it just drives me crazy. But KU fans drive me crazy. That's the problem.
It's a great thing when your fan base becomes spoiled, because that means they have had the right to be spoiled.
Yeah, I can see that.
And other fan bases are like that, and Duke fan base is like that, and you're talking Alabama football, or you're talking whatever. If you get to that point when you're spoiled and when your team loses, you're actually talking about moving on from whoever it is at that point in time, Nick Saban or Bill Self or whatever. It's crazy, but still, you need closure on this NCAA thing, or it's just, and it's really, as I said, it's not really an NCAA thing anymore. It's moved to that other
I don't
group
know
in
the
which they
details.
decided to go down that path. And
Isn't it in federal court or something? Isn't that what it is?
well, they went to this independent, whatever it's called,
Arbiter or something?
Yeah, the independent arbiter, which basically is sort of an arm of the thing that Condoleezza Rice is doing, and KU wanted to do that because they figure they're going to get a better shake, and I don't think they will. But for instance,
You don't think they're going to get a better shake there?
no, I don't, because I think that group probably feels like we're sort of the people who are supposed to judge college basketball through the lens of the Condoleezza Rice group.
Totally.
Which means we're supposed to be changing college basketball.
Yeah. But I couldn't disagree with you more. The NCAA wanted a scapegoat. They figured Kansas was a scapegoat. We're going to go out to Kansas. We're going to get Kansas. Why they didn't use Arizona for that when they got them on the flipping tapes, I don't know. But we're going to go after Kansas because they're a blue blood. They're one of the four.
Well, they
right?
have Kansas on tape, too.
Yeah, but not on tape the same way. And so then...
Now your Crimson
Now
and
my
Blue.
Crimson and Blue's coming
That's
out.
good.
But
Well, that's
here's,
good.
But here's what happens. They're going to go to this independent arbiter, and I think what KU's trying to do is say, I think they're going to be tattletales. I think, hey, okay, what about Krzyzewski? What about, Calipari? What about these guys? And speaking of which, this is more fun to talk about. Did you see Rick Pitino on TV on the commercials over the weekend with
I didn't see the
tournament?
commercial, no.
Oh, my God. They got Rick Pitino on the TV talking about college basketball and
Well,
how great it is and, the purity of these athletes. And I'm like, you got to be freaking kidding me.
also, he got his day in the sun because
I don't think, from the look of him, he's never seen a day of sun in his life.
I think he saw too much sun, and now so he can't do anything. But anyway, his team they got in the tournament because they won their conference. They finished ninth.
Yeah,
they finished ninth in their league.
Yeah,
I mean, so it's a complicated thing, but the bottom line is KU's until this ends, KU's recruiting class is ranked 22nd now in Rivals. That's about as low as it's been in forever.
Got to be.
And, that's not horrendous, but it's not what you're thinking about if you're Kansas. And
if they get impatient with Bill Self, if they don't give him extensions, if they don't pay him, I'm going to lose my mind.
Well, the one thing that you should glean from this season, hey, we're talking sports, is the fact that if the playing field becomes more even and you don't have 5 or 6 true blue blood elites above the crowd, and there's a lot more parity in Oklahoma State and all this, you've got the coach who can out-coach a lot of these people, almost all of them.
So you do think, though, that he's X's and O's also and not just Jimmy's and Joe's?
Oh, yeah.
I agree. I'm just asking you your opinion.
All you have to see is after every single time out, they run
score.
a play that works. Or, they miss a dunk or whatever. Yeah. But, I mean, the only team I'm watching right now, well, there's a lot of well-coached teams. And it's probably easier to coach a team when you don't have a bunch of studs on it. But my God, that Loyola of Chicago team is well-coached. Offense, defense, everything.
I don't know about your other statement. I'm going to take umbrage with it's easier to coach a team without a bunch of studs on it.
No, I mean to coach them to look as sharp as they do, where they run stuff perfectly.
Yes,
where
okay.
I'll
give you that.
Where they blitz a ball screen.
Yeah.
It's easier to coach guys that we have to do every single thing right, because we can't just get down 4 seconds on the shot clock and Devontae is going to take the ball and go.
It's easier to coach the try-hard chart
right
to guys that can't just go dunking on everybody.
Right. No, and Bill Self can do both. That's the point. He's proved he can do both.
You're goddamn right.
So, anyway, there you go. Mazel tov, buddy.
Mazel tov, Danny.
10-4, over and out.
We hope you enjoyed the latest Danny Clinkscale Reasonably Irreverent podcast. Come back soon for something fresh and new. This podcast was made possible by our great sponsors like
Dillon's Heating and Cooling,
treating you like family with expert and affordable HVAC services.